Hi, so today I thought I would talk about school growing up. Um, I never needed to attend special needs classes. Um, Thankfully, I had a mom who was very sensitive to what I wanted as far as school. I did switch schools about 8 times between first grade and graduating high school. Started off with one school in first grade. I switched to another school in second grade. I wasn't getting along at that school, so we were switched to a small charter school. I think there was only about 300 people. It was a performing arts school, so they did a lot of dance classes, acting classes, that sort of thing that we got to choose from. I was there for a few years. Again, I started to not get along with the teachers. I had a tendency to know that if I knew something already, I wasn't going to do it. Or I wasn't going to reread a book I had already read before and did all the assignments for. So I had started having some problems at that school, and at that school I did have some friends. After halfway through 6th grade, I had switched to another school, and it wasn't geared towards the performing arts like my previous school. It was more academic based. But that was when I really started having problems socially as far as school, and from what I've gathered, that's actually quite normal for Asperger girls. Around that age, they do often have friends prior to that, because girls tend to be more nurturing in general. And then once you hit 11 and 12-year-olds, that's when all the cliques and the cattiness between girls start. So it took me most of the rest of the school year. I was only there for half of 6th grade, the second half. It took me most of that year to become friends with anybody. I did end up becoming friends with the other misfit type girls, but I've always had a problem staying friends and keeping in touch with people, or finding things to talk about, that sort of thing. So after I switched that school, I really didn't talk to anyone. That's when my mom really started to notice my social problems. She was constantly trying to get me to do things, like if I could find out information about a new person every day, I would get ice cream, or she would take me out for something. Which really didn't work as far as making friends. More just became, I'd go up to someone, ask them 3 questions about themselves, and it didn't ever go any farther than that. I realize now that's also not really an appropriate way to attempt a friendship with someone. Not the way to start a conversation. I'm pretty sure probably they just thought I was really weird. So after that year, I switched again to a school that was in its first year. It was another performing arts school where I would get to choose my elective classes. I had taken Taekwondo, which I absolutely loved. I think the structure of it, the non-demand of needing to be social and to talk, was really good for me. So I was there for a year, but the school was in its very first year and not very well developed. Um, so the teachers from that school the following year started another new school on their own, independent of where they were at before. So I had switched to this new school, which was just outside the neighborhood, my own neighborhood. Um, and that was 8th grade. I had a really, really hard time in 8th grade. There were a lot of kids who did drugs and all of that sort of stuff started, which was never my sort of thing. I didn't really know how to handle people like that. A few times throughout that year, I had made friends, and then they just seemed to go off on their own or make friends with other people. I spent a lot of my time that year as a teacher's aide in the kindergarten class because I do really, really well with children, with younger children. So when I was there, things were good, but I had a lot of meltdowns that year. So of course I ended up not going back there. I went to a very small, probably maybe 50 student high school where it was just one big room and we all sat in the room and did our work. One of the only friends that I had kept from my previous schools went there that year with me also. So that one, it wasn't too bad, but I really didn't like the school, so I switched. The last time, going into 10th grade, it was very similar to the school I went to in 9th grade. It was self-paced. I got to sit wherever I wanted at a table. I could put my headphones in. I would open my book, do my work. I didn't have to socialize in any way. I didn't have to interact with teachers unless I needed help. And I actually, after a while, I did really, really well at that school. I had a few friends. So that was probably the best year. I got along really well with my math teacher. I'm terrible at math, so I was constantly needing help to get through my math homework. And he was really cool. He was kind of a younger guy, and he was really helpful when I was stressed out about math, and just someone that I could go and talk to a lot when I was feeling stressed out about anything else. Like I said, I did have a few friends that year. I graduated my second year, halfway through my second year at that school. I graduated valedictorian. It was a very small school. I think there were about 100 students total, maybe 50 graduating that year. So I don't really see it as all that big of an accomplishment as my mom likes to think it is. But I did. But that was a really good school for me. I really wasn't ready to leave that behind. I began college in the spring semester the following year. I didn't get around to going straight into it in August following my graduation. I actually often went back to my high school and hung out with the friend that I had there. That friend was the one that I had met my boyfriend through, and that's how me and my boyfriend had met. So that's how I knew him. But she quit talking to me when all of that happened. So now I no longer have her as a friend. Let's see what else. Okay, so that was basically, I did really good in school. I was always really ahead of what I needed to do. I was really thankful that I had a mom who was sensitive to my needs as far as schooling, and attempting to socialize, I suppose. Once I got into college, I was really scared to start. I did go to a small community college for my associate's degree. I did fairly well in there. It didn't take too much of talking to people too much. I was able to do my own thing. I got to take classes that I really enjoyed. The teachers were all really, really good teachers, and they would offer extra credit if I didn't understand an assignment. So after I got my associates, I switched to university. I went to ASU. That did not work out for me. I went there for 2 years, and it was horrible. I couldn't stand it. The homework never made sense to me. It was almost just like all the previous schooling I had, where I was really good, was just completely gone. I hated it. I ended up dropping out every single class I took there for 2 years. So then I was out of school for a while. Now I am at University of Phoenix, which I really, really like. It works well for me. We do have to do a lot of team assignments, which can be hard for me. But the classes only last 5 weeks at a time for one course. So if I am really feeling stressed out about a class, it's really helpful for me to think I only have 4 more weeks left, 3 more weeks, 2 more weeks, 1 more week, and it's done, and I get to move on to the next class. I see progress a lot faster. I only have to worry about assignments for 1 class instead of 4. But again, the only thing that I find hard here is the team assignments, which are getting a little better as I keep going. I'm in my fifth class right now, my 5th course. It will be my 4th week in this course. I absolutely hate this course, so I'll be glad when it's over. But I am planning on going all the way up to a PhD. I do find school for the most part. I'm glad I'm in school. I don't necessarily enjoy it, but I'm glad that I'm doing it. But I mean, school and degrees are definitely attainable for people with Asperger's.